So welcome into the TRF podcast. I have Rye with me today, and he is a coach within TRF program. So I'm super excited to have him on. Rye, do you just want to give like a quick introduction?
Hey everyone, yeah, as Gianfranco said, my name is Ryan. I go by Coach Ryan in the program. My name is Ryan. Been on this journey for maybe like 4 or 5 years now. Been so excited to be part of the TRF program. It's been really helpful for me personally in my life, and now I'm able to extend that to other people as well. So it's been pretty awesome.
Mm, cool. And yeah, for those of you guys that don't know like what the TRF program is, we do have a program, right, that helps men to overcome porn and masturbation. And within the program, we have what's called coaches and leaders who help men to overcome this because it's not just myself, because if it was just myself, then I wouldn't be able to do, nearly as much as I do. So Ryan has been in the TRF team for 2 years, right?
Yep, just over 2 years. Yeah.
Over 2 years, right? So, he himself has overcome porn and masturbation, and he's been able to help hundreds, if not at this point in the thousands of men
Yeah.
get one step closer to freedom. So definitely he knows what it takes, right, in order to overcome this. So in this episode of the TRF program or the TRF podcast, we're going to be going over the do's and don'ts of the recovery process because I believe that it's more important to know the don'ts than to know the do's. Because if I tell you what to do, you can potentially take it a different way and find a way to like mess up. But if I tell you every single thing to not do, then there's no choice but only to go forward in the path that you actually need to go in, right? So we're going to
hmm
be doing you guys both, but I do believe it's more important to tell people the don'ts because I don't feel like enough people know what not to do, type of thing. So do you want to go for it first? Like, let's do one do and one don't, and just go like that. So do you want to go with what would you say, Rise, the number one do inside this journey?
Yeah, for sure. There's so many how do I word it? There's so many like dips and ups and downs within this. The biggest thing that I find to be the hardest for people to do, and also the most essential for people to do, is staying committed.
Mm,
Staying committed to your recovery process, staying committed to your journey. We all have different lives, whatever that looks like. But if you're not committed to it, then that's where your biggest downfall is going to come. So the biggest do I would say is commitment to the process.
mm. So in terms of commitment too, and I'm just trying to think about this myself, like one actionable step that we can take to be committed is to make time for things, right? Like
hmm
if we committed to ourselves that we're going to stay free from this, because a lot of people just make this commitment to themselves, but then they just go back to porn and masturbation like the next day. And that's because they made a commitment, but they didn't break it down into actionable steps that will lead them to that result. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in terms of what that means is, and this could be different for everybody, right? This is why we have like the program to like break it down for you so that we already do everything for you type of thing. But what is something, right, that you can recommend, and I'll recommend something as well, or multiple things to number one, stay committed, but how would you start like this journey? Like what does it do in terms of like if someone came up to you and they had no idea how to go about this, like what would you tell them in order to stay committed, but also just get started as well to quit porn and masturbation.
Yeah, 100%. I think the biggest thing that happens when people begin to go down this journey and figure out what's working and what's not working is they fail to understand what's failing them at this point in time. So they may have tried all these different systems in place, but they're failing to recognize what's hurting them the most. So, in order to stay committed, I feel the biggest thing to do is figure out what it is not working, what is hurting those people the most, whether it's the people you're around or the job that you have, maybe even just personal affairs that you have going on, whatever that may be. I think those are the biggest things that need to be addressed first in order to make this work as far as staying committed.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like you also need to surround yourself with other men, you know what I mean, that are on the same path as you, whether that be in a church, whether that be in a community, whether that be in a program, right? Something you need to have community in place and you need to have other people in place who are going on this journey with you. Because if you're doing this alone,
Hmm.
chances of you overcoming this is very low. And that also goes into commitment as well. Like how can you stay committed when no one around you supporting you or like encouraging you, right? It's going to be very, very low to actually make this a reality if you just keep this to yourself and you don't seek out any more help or get into an environment where it's going to encourage you to actually make this a reality, right? Like accountability, right? Accountability groups, opening up to other people, getting in community, right? It's going to really help people. And if you're watching this right now, you know, and you're struggling, it's going to help you to actually stay committed on this journey because, like I mentioned, like I mean, if you just do this by yourself, it's really, really hard to actually overcome this. Hmm.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think one of the a big thing that happens in people's commitment process is that the people around them are not committed. So they're about their lives, whatever that entails, and that's not helping influence you to get where you need to go. So that's a huge part of the plan is like you getting the right people around you, or even just eliminating people that aren't part of that same goal.
Mm-hmm. And it also goes deeper than that as well in terms of like commitment. Like it's also like what are you listening to? Like what are you consuming as well? Because in terms of actually making this a reality and quitting porn and masturbation, like
Hmm.
you can't watch the same things anymore. You know what I mean? Like you can't follow the same people anymore. Like you can't consume the same things that got you addicted at the first place. And if you are listening to this and you're addicted to porn and masturbation, there's a reason to why you got addicted, right? Whether that might we can go into like the underlying reason and the root cause and all that, but I'm not specifically saying to that, but I'm specifically saying that the way that this vice came up is you could have been, you know, watching a certain show that keeps on triggering over and over again, or you could be listening to something, you know, over and over again that it triggers that one thing or a certain website. And I think we deep down inside, if you're addicted to porn and masturbation, you know what that is. Like, you know what the TV shows are, you know what the websites are, you know what the music is. Whatever that might be for you, you know the people you're hanging around with. You hang out with a certain woman, right, who keeps on tempting you to sexual immorality, which also plays into the porn and masturbation, right? We all know what
Hmm.
that is, but are you actually willing to give it up? You know what I mean? That's the big question. Like, I think
Yeah.
a lot of us know what to do. So we ask other people, you know, well, what should I do? Hoping for a different response so that we can justify, you know, doing the same exact thing. Like, would you agree
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah, 100,000%. And everything that you said compiles back into the commitment process. So being committed to staying on that course, staying committed to eliminating those previous vices or things, like you said, music or people or things or whatever that are keeping you from being committed. Because something that we say a lot within the program as well is that we are a summation of the people that we surround ourselves with, and that isn't just people. That could be the music we surround ourselves with, the television shows we surround ourselves with, whatever that may be. And if we're committed to this process, then we're going to uh, not have those things as our immediate surroundings. We live in the world with all of these things, so it's not going to be necessarily something we can get rid of, but it's something that we don't have to have be a part of.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of jumps into the don'ts too,
Mm.
um, a little bit. Did you want to kick that off?
Well, I kind of want to stay into like this do for just one more
Oh yeah, go for it.
like for me in terms of commitment, like, and you know, Ryan and I have seen again at this point, probably in the thousands, right, of people coming into the program. And not only that, but just people who are wanting to overcome porn and masturbation. So we've seen, you know, how people who move, who are successful, right? We've seen their actions. And we've also seen the actions of people who are not successful. And like Ryan mentioned, it all comes down to that commitment level. You know what I mean? And a person who's truly committed doesn't have social media. A person who's truly committed is willing to do anything possible to overcome this addiction. And a lot of people say, I'm going to do everything possible, but it's like, it's almost like, there's a good verse that Jesus says, they praise me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me, right? Like anyone can say anything type of thing, but who's actually going to follow that up with action? So I think commitment is not necessarily what you say, it's about your actions. So if you truly say that you're willing to do anything, that you're super committed, then your actions should follow that up as well. So in terms of actions, deleting social media, in terms of actions, seeking out external help, in terms of actions, telling other people that
Mm-hmm.
you're not doing those things, that you're not really actually serious, and your words don't back up what you say when you say that you're committed and that you want to go all in. Because
Mm-hmm.
right, when a person's committed, you know what I mean? Like you see it within their actions. They're very eager. They're like, I'm gonna do this, and they have that mindset, right? So I'm trying to like put it into like words because it's like when we've seen so many guys, attempt to overcome porn and masturbation, it's almost like at this point within the men who come into the program, like you can almost kind of tell like what their journey is going to be like within like at least like the first couple of days, right? Like if they're actively taking action and actively eager to want to overcome porn and masturbation, the chances of them
Mm-hmm.
overcoming it is pretty high. But if they come into the program right and they don't really do anything, they're kind of more so shy, they don't really do anything, it's like they're probably not going to be successful because
Mm-hmm.
again, their words don't align with their actions. But yeah, what do
Yeah,
you
for sure. Yeah, no, definitely. I think kind of like you said, actions speak louder than words. It's a saying that we've heard time and time again for however many years.
mm,
And it all makes sense, I guess, the more that you go through this process specifically, if you're just saying words all the time about how committed you are, how much you want this or how badly you want this, but you're not following it up with the action side of the commitment process, then you're just setting yourself up for failure. Because all you're doing is basically filling up yourself up with a bunch of hot air, and that's not serving you any purpose, and that's not serving the people around you any purpose. So staying committed to that process means that you're not just talking the talk, but you're walking the walk as well. And I think that's the hardest part for people, is that they want to they verbally say how committed they are, but they fail to follow it up with the action part of it, um, which is the biggest part of it, because you can be as hard on yourself as you want, but if you are at least trying your best, at least that 1% better every day and working hard towards that end goal, then that's what matters the most, even when your brain is telling you something different, or some other people are telling you that you're crazy or stupid or whatever. But if
Mhm.
your action part of the commitment process is sticking, then that speaks volumes.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, cool. Let's move into a don't as well. Because I wanna go over as many as possible, but it's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
like we could go into like so deep into this that
We
like
can go so deep into that. There's so many things.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
there's a lot of things. I do want to say a quick don't though.
yeah,
So
go for it.
one of the things that I instantly think of when it comes to this recovery process, and the thing that no one should be doing, especially if you're listening to this right now, right, and you're looking to overcome porn and masturbation, this needs to be something. What I'm gonna say, this needs to be something that you can't do, and that's having a
Hmm.
victim's mindset, and that's and slash overthinking, because I feel like they kind of go hand in hand. Like, and
Yeah.
what I mean specifically when it comes to that is people who have a victim's mindset, they're always looking to blame other people. Oh man, the only reason I'm addicted to porn and masturbation is because of my wife. The only reason I'm
Yeah.
addicted to porn and masturbation is because of my cousin, or because so and so showed me in the second grade, right? Like we have to take full responsibility over this addiction. Otherwise, we're always going to have it. So
Yeah.
in terms of having a victim's mindset, it's, you know, not doing the necessary things, because we all, like, you know what I mean? I don't want to get too vulgar, but like, if I told you right now, and if I sat with you, if you know the person listening to this right now, and I told you, hey, what do you need to do to overcome this addiction? And you say all these things, that's what you need to do. Sometimes we overthink as well the process, but obviously
Hmm.
it's easier said than done as well. It's like, you know, you might know what to do, but you need help in actually accomplishing and doing that, if that makes sense. But
Yeah.
in terms of the victim's mindset, in going deeper into this, right? Number one, taking full responsibility over this addiction and saying the only reason to why I'm in this spot right now is because of myself. And if you can't accept that, then you won't be able to receive freedom. And that's just the truth. That's just like the blunt
Hmm.
honest truth, right? We need to get out of that victim's mindset and we need to start embracing, hey, everything is my fault. And that's not to condemn you or like make you feel bad, but it's to say that
Hmm.
once you fully take responsibility over everything and say the reason why I'm relapsing is because of me. The reason to why I got into this addiction was because of me. And you don't put the responsibility on anybody else, that's when true freedom can actually start to come. Because it's way easier to blame somebody else than it is to look in the mirror and say, I need to actually make a change. But when you start blaming other things and other circumstances and other people for why you're addicted in the first place, you know, it almost
Hmm.
like gives you an easy out. It's like, you know, instead of looking in the mirror and actually doing what you need to do, you look to the side and say, no, it's that person's fault. So, you know, the attention goes to that person when the attention should be all to yourself because this is your problem, nobody else's problem, right? And,
Hmm.
you know, I want to go into overthinking as well because they kind of, you know, they go hand in hand, but it's very, very hard to overcome this if you don't take true full responsibility, right? And you know, you stop blaming others because the cold hard reality is if you're addicted to porn and masturbation, you're not a victim. Like you got yourself into this, right? And sometimes I think that people think that they're a victim, like, oh, poor me, I'm addicted. And yes, it's like it's not a good thing to be addicted. Like, you know, that's not what I'm trying to say. But it's like you're not a victim. You know what I mean? Like you got yourself into this and that's fine, but let's get you out. Yeah, you know. So
Yeah. Just before we jump back into a do too, I just want to piggyback off what you said. Something that I heard not too long ago, which I think was pretty life changing for me, was it may not have been your fault, but it is your responsibility.
mm,
And so we all have so many different experiences in our life. Me and my upbringing, whatever. I have so many different experiences and things that have happened to me in my life, and they may not have been my fault, but they are my responsibility to move past them. It's not anyone else's responsibility. It's not Gianfranco's or my mom's or dad's or families or anyone's. It's my responsibility to take care of myself and move forward. Or, like you were saying, the victim, I can be the victim and say, no, it's all of these other people that have hurt me ever in my life's responsibility to fix everything that's wrong with me. But that's not going to empower me. That's not going to get me to where I need to go. And it's not going to get them where they need to go. Ultimately, each of us has a responsibility to take care of our own selves, no
mm,
matter what previous circumstances have happened to us or how ever much you messed up, it doesn't matter. Like what happened, what happens now is the taking the responsibility and the ownership of where you want to go now in your life, so that way you can get all of these things, like commitment to the process. But
mm.
it's only possible after you get out of that victim mentality, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. And I have a question for you, right? And I'm curious to hear,
Mm,
you know, your response to this. Because obviously, I don't believe that someone can quote unquote be a victim, right? In terms of porn and masturbation addiction. Do you feel like someone could stumble upon this addiction and it not having to be their fault, right? Like they're not at fault for them having the addiction. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, good question. What I do think is that maybe at a young age, this could happen. Sure, I think there's guys within the program that were introduced to it at a very, very young age, shown by a family member or whoever. And I think from there, that first time might have been not their fault initially, sure. Outside of that, further down the line, before any know-how or that this was wrong takes place, maybe that's not specifically their fault. As soon as they get a whiff of this is not right or this is wrong, then that's when that shift changes between from being that other individual's fault that introduced them to it to now being that person's sole fault or responsibility for taking over. That's my feelings.
Yeah, 100%. And regardless though, you know what I mean? Regardless of if you feel like it was your fault, if it wasn't your fault, we should not have that mindset of,
Hmm.
so it's fault, because then we put the blame on them. And what happens when we put the blame on other people is we can't take responsibility now. And if we can't take responsibility now, how can we overcome this if we're taking responsibility, So does that make sense, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing is, like I said, it may not have been your fault. It may have been your fault, whatever the case is. Either way, you have to take responsibility for it. So that way we can move forward. Yeah.
And I'd say like that's the number one thing that most people don't do, and that's what keeps them addicted as well. Um, and kind of like another thing, I guess that can be the second don't. Let's just go with another do. Do you want to go for a do on your list?
Yeah, definitely. I think a do is we were kind of talking about it before. I just wanted to dive into it a little bit deeper, is just building a strong support system around you. I think one thing that is really hurtful to people, maybe more, I don't want to say especially men or especially women or whatever, but people as a whole, a big thing that happens is we neglect to surround ourselves by the right type of people, or the people that build us up and help us to stay committed to our process and journey. So we hide and we pretend, and we wear all these masks all the time, pretending that everything is okay, when we have friends and family or other people that know us and love us and want to be there for us, but we are denying them that ability to support us, by holding on to so much guilt or shame, or the anxiety parts of what if they reject me, or what if they think this of me, or whatever the case may be. But if someone's rejecting you because you're being open and transparent with them because you want to get better and get help, then maybe those aren't the right people that you should be surrounding yourself with. So I think really, really big important thing to do is surrounding yourself by the right people.
Yeah, 100%. And that's
Yeah.
also as well like the right people in the sense that can help you, but also the right people in the sense that have overcome porn and masturbation and also
Hmm.
can guide you. Like a lot of people, they're like, I have a strong support system, but no one in their support system has ever overcome porn and masturbation. You know what I mean? It's like almost like the blind leading the blind. And yes, like, a certain family member or a spouse, right? Maybe is not struggling with it right now, but they never overcame it. So that how they never know what you're going through. In turn, how can they best support you, right? So it's great to have people who can encourage you and are on your side, that care about you and that can, give you that extra motivation. But it's also like if
Hmm.
you don't have people on your side that can guide you and mentor you and that have already been there, done that, it's going to be really hard to overcome this, right? Because I know that a lot of people, they're like, my support system is my dad and my spouse, and it's like, well, have they ever struggled with this? And they're like, no. You know what I mean? Is that really like a lot, or even worse, right? Not worse, but like some support is better than no support, but it's at the same time, it's not optimal. Some people,
Yeah.
they get into like a church group or something like that, and they have people on their side, but all the men are struggling with porn and masturbation themselves.
Yeah.
The blind leading the blind, you know?
Yeah, it's awesome to have support around you, but you have to have the right kind of support. You
Yeah,
can't have someone that's supporting you while they're still doing the same thing that you're avoiding.
yeah,
That's not supporting. You got to find the right help. I think you mentioned it earlier on, but finding the right, like finding proper help, like people that have, like you just said, overcome, that have already overcome or have the ability to teach someone how to overcome. Those are the types of people that you want around you, in addition to your friends and family and all that other support.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And because I remember like there was this one time I wanted to. This was when I was still struggling with porn and masturbation. I wanted to overcome porn and masturbation, but all my friends they were still addicted to porn and masturbation. So I tried to like go with them on this journey, like, oh, we're all quitting. I'm sure like this has happened for like a lot of people listening to this right now, where everyone gets together and they're like, yeah, we're all quitting, and then the first person relapses and they make the big announcement, you know what I mean, where everybody has to know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody feel bad about me, you know what I mean? No solution to bounce back, just one random and it's like it discourages everybody else, right? And then
Yeah.
everybody starts dropping like flies because
Yeah.
within this journey, your flesh, right, looks for justification so that it can go back to its former self, right? So what I
Yeah.
mean by that is I would say, oh, well, so and so relapsed, and I knew that he was very committed. So, I went longer than he did, so I'm just gonna go back.
Yeah.
So if you're surrounded by men who are still very struggling and are really not that committed, what's going to happen is it could actually be worse than actually having no support system. You know what I mean? Like some people
Hmm.
will drag you down. It's almost like a crab in a barrel type of thing. I don't know if you guys like are familiar with that expression, but if you put a bunch of crabs in a barrel, what will happen is if one crab tries to escape the barrel, by nature the crab will drag the other one down so that it stays in that barrel. Right. So it's almost like some people, and this is
My
the
God.
yeah, because
I didn't know that.
some people, subconscious, like maybe not consciously, right? Because they can't overcome an addiction like this, because they can't find freedom themselves, they want to keep others in the addiction so that when they, are looking in that mirror, they're like, at least everybody else around me is struggling, right? So that they don't have to
Hmm.
take 100% responsibility. And that does happen. Like that's very common, in terms of support systems for men. Like, some men subconsciously want other people to keep on struggling so that they can keep on justifying to go back to porn and masturbation. And that's very scary.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. No, definitely. It's just so important um, to have the right people around you. And I didn't know that about the crabs. That's kind of crazy.
Mhm.
But so yeah, don't be a crab, basically. Don't be a crab. That's what we've learned. No, but honestly though, like surround yourself by the right people and don't get trapped in these buckets, right? Like Gian said. Because ultimately these people that are supporting you, quote unquote, are going to be your demise at the end of the day, and that's that.
Yeah,
Who wins from that?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a don't I wanted to jump into, just kind of off of everything you said right now, is something that happens quite regularly. I've seen within my uh, teach coaching within the program and outside of that as well is comparison syndrome.
Mm,
We often look at how other people are doing, how our friends are doing, or how this person is the same age as me and they have so much more money, or they have the wife or this wonderful life that I wish I had. But
mm,
the thing at the end of the day is that person is not you. You are you cannot be anything other than you, and that person cannot be anything other than them. So comparing yourself to someone else's um, abilities or situation or whatever is is undermining your own power and giving your power away to someone else. And I talk about that a lot with guys, one to one, is not giving your power away to someone else. And so by you comparing yourself to another person, um, and whatever they have going on is hurting you and your future. And we all get sucked into that trap because we live in a society with a lot of influential people, quote unquote, influential people that do a lot of amazing things or cool things or whatever. And it sucks to think that we can't have those things or don't have those things or can't do those things or don't do those things, whatever. And it's hurting our progress. It's hurting our ability to be successful. And then kind of like you were saying about using other guys as an excuse to go back down these rabbit holes again, we end up comparing ourselves to these other people, and then we're like, oh well, I'm never going to be anything like that guy. So then we just go right back into the rabbit hole. When if you were just focused on yourself and what you had to offer, and what your abilities were and how amazing you are, then that's what's going to allow that success to prosper.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I was gonna say as well in terms of comparison syndrome, there is such a thing though as healthy competition, right? Like for example, we put in guys into accountability groups inside the TRF program. And one of the reasons we do so is because, ideally in an accountability group, men are staying free from porn and masturbation. And what ends up happening is, you're gonna be like, oh man, I don't want my brothers to like, you know, to get discouraged because I'm relapsed. And some people they don't care. And I mean, hey, like that's a whole nother discussion. But ideally, right, the person who's really committed will say, man, I don't want to be the only one who's relapsing. I don't want to be that one guy that ruins it for everybody type of thing. And that kind of in a sense is a little bit comparing, but there is healthy competition where it brings out the best in you in terms of accountability. But yes, like sometimes it can get very unhealthy where it's like it's almost like condemning. Like when it gets to a point where like you're condemning yourself and when like you're feeling bad because you're not in a position, whatever position it is, because of another person, that's when it's
Right,
bad and that's when it's unhealthy. But if
right.
comparison I don't want to say compare, I want to say competition is driving you to become the best version of yourself, that's what we want.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of like iron sharpens iron, right?
Yeah.
So we have the ability to support other people and help other people and give them something to look up to. I think that's really important for as each individual within the program that we have is everyone's building themselves up so that way other people, new guys that are coming in or whatever, have also something that they can look up to. And then that's in the sense of like healthy comparison, I guess, is having someone to mirror, someone else that they can copy as far as their actions. And when it gets unhealthy is when you're beating down on yourself because of what that person may have. You may be able to have those same things at some point in time, but that's not where your situation is at right now. And that's okay. All you have to do is keep working hard and have that goal, have those long-term goals, and then those short-term goals that allow those long-term ones to be possible. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, cool. Let's go over to another do. I have a lot of don'ts. I have more don'ts than do's.
If you want, I can do another do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So another do is to be realistic about your goals. So I'm sure a lot of guys or people have heard of SMART goals. And so basically setting goals that are reasonable to you. So something that's really, I say a lot of things are really important. They all are, guys. They all are really important.
Mm,
So many things are important. But setting a SMART goal, setting a realistic goal, a goal that you can actually achieve is really important. Like for me, for example, I'm gonna go all the way off on left field, but I'm never gonna go to the moon, for example. That's not something I'm gonna do. So writing that as a down as a goal for me is ridiculous. But me, I might be able to hit like a new PR at the gym, for example. That's something that's realistic for me, and I can see that that's something I can work really hard towards getting with my situation. So make sure like whatever you're doing, you're setting goals that are reasonable to you and your time of life that you're in right now.
Mhm.
Don't set goals too far in the future because that might be, kind of hard to get. But if you set goals with a reasonable amount of measurability, meaning like you can see the steps that you need to take to get them, and so on and so forth, then those allow you to build on them one after the other.
Mhm. Yeah. And like, can you obviously like don't say any names, but like, what are some examples that you've seen where like, this applies within like our porn free journey?
Yeah, yeah. Within our journey here, an example of that. I have guys that want to be able to connect more. Oh, this is a good one. Connecting more with their partners,
Mhm.
and so often, porn masturbation really gets in the way of having a significant relationship with their partner, wife, or whoever they are. And so that would be a big goal. That would be the long-term goal, is having like built intimacy or better connection emotionally, spiritually, whatever, with their partner. And so that would be the long-term goal. The short-term goal then is all these little habits like getting rid of social media,
Mhm.
having setting a goal of having a really consistent morning routine or night routine, having some good de-stressing habits that you practice, I don't know, 5 days a week or something. All those are little short-term goals that allow big that long-term goal to be possible. In addition to that, obviously, of course, the short-term goals of not, winning each day by not masturbating or watching porn each of those days throughout the process.
And I wanted to say that this is very important as well. What I'm gonna bring up next. Because my fear is that someone will listen to this and be like, well, a realistic goal for me is not to quit porn and masturbation. Well, I'm just gonna and listen to this. They're gonna be like, I'm gonna quit porn first before I quit masturbation. So they keep on going to masturbation. Like, and
Yeah,
we have the same thoughts as well. Like, have you ever
yeah.
seen someone in the program quit porn first and then masturbation?
I have had so many guys. I don't mean to laugh, sorry. I have had it's funny because of how realistic he just said what everything he just said is. It happens so often that guys come into the program, and I'm not saying this is easy. It is definitely not easy. The formula to do this is very simple, but it's not easy to apply. But so many guys wanted to find loopholes or shortcuts in the system, and I call masturbating a gateway. So basically, masturbating leads into pornography and so on and so forth. And so if you're getting rid of one, then you have to get rid of the other in order for it to be in order for the longevity of it to happen. Because sure, you can stop watching content for a period of time, but if you're still engaging in other activities that promote that, then are you really getting rid of it, or are you just kind of keeping it at bay until the next, I don't know, moment of weakness, quote unquote, happens. So yeah, no, I see it all the time. I see it all the time. Guys come in and try to uh, do one without the other, but ultimately they always end up going back. I haven't had one. I've never seen anyone be able to
Yeah.
do that, but don't take that as a personal challenge. As I'll be the first one to be able to do that. It's not a challenge. It's it's not a challenge for you to try to beat that, or beat the odds or whatever. Ultimately, one encourages the other, and
Yes.
you have to get rid of both. You cannot keep both and not and be successful. That's not going to happen, because
And
ultimately, like I was saying before, you're going to impact your relationships with other people to whatever um, capacity that is.
Mhm. And like, I don't even know why anyone would want to still masturbate or want to still watch porn. I don't understand. It seems very, because as men, we're very logical. You know what I mean? So it seems logical. Okay, let me first quit porn, then let me quit my, or vice versa, right? But
Sure, yeah.
what Ryan was saying, we have, out of the thousands of men who we've seen go on this journey, we have never met one person who's ever been successful. So it's like you literally have a 0% success rate if you try to do this. So avoid this mistake. Avoid this mistake. And we're going to repeat word. Avoid this mistake. And the thing is, right, what you and me just said just upset so many people, because what ends up happening is, like you mentioned, people look for shortcuts, and when you tell them that their shortcut won't work, they get upset because they have to face the realization that they actually have to go the long route and the path that is hard. And people don't want to do what is hard, especially when it comes to this path of no porn and masturbation. They always want the easiest way to overcome porn and masturbation. What's the easiest way? But the easiest way is to do the hardest thing, unfortunately. And that's why so many people, they don't end up quitting, because they consistently look for the easy way when they don't realize that the easy way is actually the hard way. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's like flips in your brain. You gotta kind of twist it in your brain a little bit. But yeah, it's unfortunate that it's as hard as it is. Something I always tell the guys is, we cannot run away from our own bodies. We can turn off the computers. We can, get out of these other tempting situations, but we can't run away from our own bodies. And so that work has to come from inside, and that isn't easy to do.
Yeah.
That takes work, it takes commitment, it takes dedication, it takes you surrounding yourself by the right type of people and getting the right type of help in order to get where you want to go. But yeah, no, that's hard to hear. It's a hard pill to swallow that you
Most
can't.
people, they don't want to swallow it as well, so they do it, and then they end up relapsing, or they end up realizing that they can't do it, and it's just like, bro, you wasted so much time when we were trying to tell you that we can save you.
Yeah.
We don't, guys, like, I promise, like, we don't want to make this hard on you. It's just hard. Like, that's just the reality, right? And
Yeah.
when people hear that, they're like, oh man, that they're just trying to make it super hard on me because, for whatever, like, we want to see you continue to struggle for whatever reason. Like, like, what? Like, that makes like no sense. Like, you know what I mean? But people do get upset when you tell them what they don't want to hear, because you
Hmm.
have to face the reality that it's not as easy as they made it out to be in their head, but it's like they're still struggling. That can also be another, do as well, like listen to people who have overcome porn and masturbation. Don't listen to people who have not. I see this a lot, and it's going to be a small do because I still want to stay on this little topic that we're on right now. But just a quick side thing, I see a lot of people in the program, they listen to people who are still struggling with porn and masturbation. It's like, bro, like, you know what I mean? Like, I tell them the truth. I tell them the thing that is a kind of a hard truth to swallow, a hard pill to swallow. Then some person who's still addicted to porn and masturbation says the opposite thing, and then they listen to the opposite opinion. But it's like, are you going to listen to someone who can barely go a week free from porn and masturbation, or a person who's been almost 4 years free at this point? And it
Hmm.
sounds very like, oh, like duh, but you'd be surprised, when people have their mindset on something that's easy for them, like a shortcut, they're willing to do anything to justify that. So even if it's just another person's opinion who has no business giving opinion, they will cling on to that and be like, yes, that's the truth. And then they do it, and then eventually it doesn't end up working. And then it's like, well, we have to learn from our mistakes. Like, you have to be willing to, the best word is submit to a person and listen to that person's advice and say, hey, like, I don't understand it right now, but I know that my mentor, I know that the person who I'm my leader has my best interest in mind. So if he says that, quitting porn first and then masturbation's not going to work, I have to trust that, and I have to be able to submit to him and actually do what he tells me to do. And I see this to be a big problem in the TRF program is people try to rely on their own strength, which is what the Bible tells us exactly not to do. There's a verse that says, there's a way that seems right to a man, but the way ends to destruction, right? So there's a lot of ways that seem right to us on this journey, but then they end in destruction, and then they come to us and like, I keep on relapsing. It's like, well, did you do what we told you not to do? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Are you doing what we're telling you to do? No. So it's like, okay, so are you gonna start doing what it is that we're gonna tell you to do? And they're like, maybe. It's like, ah, I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
we can only do so much. On this topic though, real quick, in the make realistic goals, yes, I agree 100%. I still don't want anyone to have that mindset of, oh, let me first quit porn and masturbation, because let me first quit porn and then masturbation, because that's realistic. Also, though, I don't want anyone to have the mindset of, let me first go, this is an example. Let me first go 30 days and then I'll go 90 days. Or have you heard this right? Let me go 1 week free and then I'll go 1 month free. No, no, don't fall into that lie. Don't fall into that shortcut. It's another shortcut that we need to let go of, right? The word of God, it says this. Jesus says, whoever wants to follow me must deny himself and give up everything. And again, I'm pissing off so many people because I've seen this, right? When you tell someone this, they get upset, super upset, because another shortcut of theirs that they came up with in their mind is not valid anymore, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I've never met any single person who's told themselves, let me first go 30 days free and then I'll go, 90 days free. I've never met a single person who's overcome porn and masturbation doing that ever in my
Yeah.
life. This has to be, you have to let everything go. You have to burn the boats and you have to go all in if you want to make this a reality, right? Because who wants to go only 1 month free? Like, what the heck? Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. But again, we're very logical as men, so it makes kind of sense, but never seen anyone do it. Like, it makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll go 1 week, and then we go 1 month. Progress
Yeah.
over time, and then eventually I'll let go of it. Never met any single person who's ever done that and has actually
Yeah.
quit for a long period of time.
Just what you're saying. It's upsetting. It's upsetting because, like you said, it makes sense. Sure, it does make sense. First do this, then do that. But it just doesn't work. And at least in the, like you said, we actually have had thousands of guys come
Yeah.
through the program so far, and I have heard those reasonings before, that I want to do this first and then do that. And I say, okay, go for it. Since if you're gonna fight me that much, go for it. Let's see what happens. And then and then it doesn't work, and they're like, okay, so it didn't work. I'm like, all right, so can we do this way now? Since your way didn't work. And then the same thing, like, okay, I'm gonna go a week free first. I'm like, okay, but you're going a week free, and then to do what? And
Exactly.
then like, why are we going a week free? Like, what is the purpose behind that? And then they give me their reasons. Oh, it's just a more obtainable goal for me, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, I understand that, but why don't we just build our systems in place to where we don't have to focus on getting a week, when we can just have that lifetime, or that the real, like, actual freedom. Because if you're holding on to a 90-day count or a 1 week count or whatever, that's still giving it so much power,
Yeah.
and we want to take that power away by not saying, oh, I'm gonna go a week free, or I'm only gonna quit this first and then that. That's still giving it so much power, which is why guys fall back into it every time.
Yeah. And it all comes back to like submitting to the leader. Like, in terms of porn and masturbation and quitting this, like, even with God, like you have, and I'm not saying like a leader, please do not take it. I'm not saying or anyone here at program that is as leader as God or anything like that. But if you want to take mentorship from someone and you want to learn from someone, there takes a level of submission towards that person in order to say, hey, I'm just gonna do what that person's telling me to do. Like, if you're a child, like, you have to submit to your mother and father because they know what's best for you. If you're a human, you have to submit to God because God knows what's best for you. Like, in terms of a mentor, like I myself have mentors, I have to submit to my mentors. Sometimes my mentor tells me something I don't want to hear and I don't understand it, but I still do it because I know that they have walked further in this life than me and they are more wise than me. So I still do it, right? Sometimes people they're so prideful and they're like, oh man, I don't care if that person has seen thousands of people try to overcome porn and masturbation. I don't care if that person has helped thousands of people, be set free from porn and masturbation. I'm still gonna do it my own way. But guys, let me challenge you. The same mindset that got you stuck onto porn and masturbation, like, do you feel like that's the same mindset that's gonna get you free from it? No, there needs to be mindset shifts. There needs to be a level of submission. And man, I wish I could look every single person in the eye when it comes to whoever wants to do this and say, bro, like, you need to be able to submit. You need to be able to say, hey, I don't understand, but I'm still gonna do it his way because I trust him. I trust him. There needs to be that level of trust. Because what happens is when you
Hmm.
do it your way, what's going to end up happening is you're going to continue to fail until you do it, the way that it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be intended. Like for myself as well, and I'm very familiar with this. Like I've had mentors rip into me, like just why are you doing this? This is dumb. This is this and this and that. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. You're the one that's dumb. And then I continue to go on with it, and then my life crumbles before my eyes. And then they're like, yeah, I told you you shouldn't, like a father rather, or even just other mentors as well. I told you shouldn't have done that, and they weren't trying to tell me because they were trying to be mean, right? But because they had my best interest in mind, I didn't pay attention, and then I ended up learning the hard way. And it's like you don't have to learn the hard way. Um, there's a good quote that says, a dumb person, never learns from his own mistakes. A smart person learns from his own mistakes, and a wise person learns from the mistakes of others, right? Let's be wise. Let's learn from the guys who have helped thousands of men to overcome porn and masturbation, and let's avoid the same mistakes that they tell us to not do, right? So when you put it like that, hopefully like changes someone's perspective, but if not, like we can only make you do so much type of thing.
Yeah, ultimately, like you're saying, it's everyone is their own person. Everyone has the responsibility for themselves, like we were talking about earlier, and it's not up to you, Gianfranco, or me, or whoever to change someone's mind, I guess, or to make not change someone's mind, to make someone do something. It's just about information and providing positive feedback and positive, sorry, not positive resources and information. There you go. And kind of like you were saying too, like when you go to the doctor, for example, and he tells you quit smoking, for example, and you're like, no, I'm going to keep smoking, so I'm going to just do that. Well, then you're going to end up in that same line of then you're going to end up suffering for it because you chose not to listen to the doctor. And I'm sure we all have a person in our life that
Yeah.
kind of we can kind of see that same thing where they were told to not do something anymore and they kept doing it anyway, and then now they paid the price for it. And it's just kind of what it is. So kind of going back to what we are talking about staying committed, finding the right people around to support you, the right, kind of mentors or proper help. Not comparing yourself to other people and not taking the victim mentality. All those things all end with you being successful. And no, like Gianfranco said, it's not easy. It's not easy. We can't take the easy way out. Um, we can't take the easy way out this time. Not
Exactly.
this time.
And that's one of the things. And we're gonna look to wrap up here because we've been going for like a little bit. Now we can actually
Yeah,
make like a 20-part series if we wanted to.
yeah. We can do a part. We can do a part two.
Because we've been going on for like almost an hour now. I don't want to make this too long, but
For
there's a lot
sure.
of good stuff, in here as well though. So I'm glad. But I was gonna say as well, like, one of the things I wanted to reiterate is like we don't do things like for me telling you, like some people have like a I don't know why, but some people have I guess I kind of do know why, but some people are like, oh man, he's only telling me this because he wants to make it harder on me. You know what I mean? Or I don't know what the certain mindset is behind this, but it's like, bro, like You know what I mean? Like we're telling you this out of love so that you don't end up doing what we have already done, type of thing. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? So it's just like, yeah, it's frustrating when I tell men certain things and then they don't take action on it because they don't understand. But it's like, bro, like there takes a level of submission, to actually be able to do this successfully. If you're gonna have a mentor and learn from someone, right? Like it shouldn't make like a lot of things don't make sense if you're following God, for example, right? And again, I'm not saying I'm God or anything, but I'm just, submitting to God is the ultimate level of submission, right? So it's like if you're submitting to God, God says don't have sex with other people. Why? I don't know. I, I don't, I don't know why, but I have to trust that God knows best, for me within my situation because I know if I have sex, if I, just or even just, with porn and masturbation, I know that if I commit sexual immorality, then my life is not going to be good. And I've learned from, my own experiences when I could have just learned from just reading the word of God, right? And he told me to not to, and I have faith. Okay, I trust God, so I'm not going to do that. But it took for me
Yeah.
to my own way, and now I'm like, okay, that makes sense now because that's the very wise thing, So sometimes we shouldn't need to know the why. It's just okay. My leader tells me so, then I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. And kind of like you said, I'm losing my train of thought, but ultimately, we need to just trust that we need to just trust the people that are helping us overcome. We need to trust those resources, trust, and just go for it full throttle. We can't, like you said, take the easy way out. Every time we try to find these shortcuts or loopholes or whatever the case is, or do it our own way, then we're setting ourselves up for failure pretty regularly. And like I was saying before, no one wins from that. So if you trust the process, go through it and try your best not to take the easy way out. Not that every day is going to be perfect, but trying your best and putting your best foot forward each day, then you're going to be setting yourself up for success. But it all starts with understanding why you want to do this to begin with and
Yeah,
what's at stake.
exactly. Okay, cool. I
Yeah.
think it's a good time to wrap up because I don't want to make this too long.
Yeah, no, we can keep going. There's like 10 more points, so.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I'm sure like we'll be able to even get more points as well, like in terms of like more do's and don'ts as time goes on. I even want to make this like a series to be honest, because there's just so many do's and don'ts and like a lot of like stuff that I want to say as well when it comes to this. But again, I don't want to make this too long. What
No,
are you
for sure. And then hopefully we can like jump on with like a mutual conversation between all of us, leadership and stuff.
yeah,
That'd be kind of cool.
Evan? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. What are your closing thoughts though? Like, is there anything else you want to say before we end off? Is what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah. Um, what would I say? Don't Something I love to say. I have a few. I have a lot of sayings that I love to say. What I will say today is to don't throw your buckets into empty wells. What I
Mm,
mean by that is to uh, do things that build you up. Don't continue on the same trajectories that are tearing you down. And so, with your bucket, that representing you, if you keep throwing that down the empty well, you're not going to get anything out of it. So, you need to move on, move to a different well, move somewhere else. So that way, when you throw in your bucket, it gets filled up. But continuing down the hole of porn and masturbation, all these things, that's continually throwing your bucket into an empty well, and you're exerting all this energy towards something that's not giving you anything back, and it's not worth it.
yeah, exactly. So it's almost like one of a quote that I really like is like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, right? So some people,
Hmm.
they think that if they continue doing certain thing a certain way, they're going to get a different result. But if it didn't work out the first time, you know, and it's never worked out for anybody else, it's probably not going to work out for you, type of thing.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Oh yeah. There's so many quotes, so many sayings. They're just life changing for real.
Mhm. Cool. All
Yeah.
right. I think this is a good time to wrap it up.
Okay.
I don't have
Awesome.
much else to say, but yeah, just want to say thank you, Rye, as well for hopping on as well. I know that you didn't need to hop on as well. But definitely we will do a podcast. It might not even be do's and don'ts. We might have like another topic, but we will definitely
Yeah,
do
yeah,
one with
yeah.
Grant and Evan.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's pretty awesome. The more often we can do it, it's the better. And I think like you said, um just spread, or like I said, just spreading awareness, information, getting people to talk about it. It's just
Yeah,
I think that's like a big thing.
100%. Okay,
Yeah. Cool. Sweet. Awesome. I look forward to episode 3.
let's do it.
Thanks guys for staying out with us through the end.
Yeah.
Um, John, JD, and Edgar, appreciate it.
Mhm.
I know you guys can't unmute yourselves, but yeah.
All right, I'm gonna end it off. I'll see you guys later.
All right, bye.
See you.